Hi there, welcome to another online RE lesson. Before we start this lesson, I want you to pause this video, and if you haven't already, I want you to go to show my homework and I want you to complete the quiz on Hajj. You need to complete that quiz before you do this lesson because that is going to be your recall and your retrieval practice that is going to help you build links between what you have already learned and what you're going to learn about today. Okay, the more links that we can build as we learn new information, the more likely we are to remember that information, the more likely we are to be able to explain it in greater detail, and the better we're going to do ultimately when it comes to our GCSEs. Okay, so you really need to go and do that quiz before you do this lesson. So pause this video, come back when you've done it. So once you've done your quiz, we're going to look at this festival today. This is the second festival that we're looking at in our curriculum. Last lesson was Eid Al-Fitr, and this lesson is Id-ul-Adha. Okay, they're both called Eid, and remember the spelling might differ from person to person. So some people spell it with an ID and some spell Eid, E-I-D. We spell it with an ID. It's not right or wrong, or it's just different. Okay, so we're going to start off by you looking at a video about Eid Al-Fitr, which I have attached in the bio, and I have also attached on Show My Homework. And I would like you to answer the questions on the sheet, which are on Show My Homework as well, similar to last lesson. So pause this video and go and watch the other one. Okay, so today you are going to take part in the same activity that you took part in last lesson, which is completing a mystery about a Muslim, a fictional character in this case, who represents most British Muslims. Okay, so this mystery is about a woman called Mrs. Lee, and as I say, she represents most Muslims in Great Britain, and you are going to use this to explain how Mrs. Lee, and by extension of that, most British Muslims, celebrate the festival of Eid Al-Adha. Okay, so the same context as last time. I would like you to use the mystery, and I'd like you to cross out any information which does not help you answer that question, and I'd like you to use any information as bullet points to explain how Muslims celebrate Eid Al-Fitr. Okay, and if you wanted to use an extension as well, you could go back over the paragraph or the bullet points, whichever one you're doing, and you could highlight where the following are shown. So submission to Allah and the wider Ummah, the Muslim community. Okay, so pause this video, have a go at that mystery, and then come back when you are ready to look at the answers and maybe check what you missed. Okay, so here we go. Here are all the answers. The first one is that the festival of Eid Al-Fitr is celebrated on the 10th day of the month of Id-ul-Adha, which is the same month as the pilgrimage of Hajj, which is why I got you to look back at what we've learned already about Hajj, because it is the festival which comes after that pilgrimage. Now, this festival remembers the story of Ibrahim. Remember the story of Ibrahim, the prophet, who God asked him to sacrifice his son, and he was willing to do that up until the moment where he was about to kill his son, and God said, no, stop, it's a test. I was testing your faith. Your son can live. I'm going to give you an animal to sacrifice instead. And this festival represents and remembers the willingness and the submission to Allah that Ibrahim shows, and that's what Muslims remember. So in order to remember this story, many Muslims on Hajj will sacrifice an animal. Now, this is not particularly common in the UK. This is not particularly common even with many Muslims around the world who go on Hajj. So instead of doing this, many Muslims in Britain will buy halal meat instead, because they can't sacrifice an animal because it's against the law. Now, a third of that meat is kept for themselves. A third of the meat which is purchased is given to friends or relatives as a gift, and a final third is given to the poor. Some Muslims might choose to give money to the poor rather than giving meat, because obviously money goes a lot further in terms of lasting a lot longer and helping them with things like housing and bills and stuff. But either way, it is a time to think about those in need. You will see a lot of the time in Muslim festivals, it's about being selfless rather than selfish, thinking of others above ourselves. It is also known as the festival of sacrifice, or Greater Eid, and it lasts for 4 days. And in this festival, Muslims will go to the mosque to pray with others, and we'll hear a sermon from the Imam. Now, you might remember in Eid-ul-Fitr, the Imam's sermon is all about helping the poor, helping the needy, because Eid-ul-Fitr comes after Ramadan, when we've been thinking about the poor, thinking about the needy, thinking about those who need help in society. This festival is remembering sacrifice and willingness to obey God. So the Imam's sermon in this festival is going to be a lot more focused towards obeying God, following his rules, sacrificing things for him, giving up things that maybe we shouldn't be putting above God. So that's going to be the main focus of this festival and this sermon. And similar to Eid-ul-Fitr, Muslims visit family members to celebrate with them. So even if they're not on Hajj themselves, they will still celebrate the festival back home at the same time as the pilgrims on Hajj are celebrating it, and they'll visit family members who are at home with them as well. And one of the big things that I really like about this festival is that many Muslims, as well as visiting family, will also invite their neighbours round to their house. They're lonely, maybe they live on their own, maybe they're in hospital, and they will invite people round or go and visit them to make sure that nobody is left out. So if you live on the same road as a Muslim family, you might find them knocking at your door if you lived on your own to invite you round for a meal with them, so that you're not left out during this festival, which I think is a really lovely selfless way of building positive communities. So all of these are ways that Muslims celebrate Eid al-Adha. There are some that are similar to Eid al-Fitr, like number 9, number 8, and other ones in terms of celebrating sort of family time and community time. But there are also some that are different to Eid al-Fitr, such as the use of animals and meat and going to visit those in hospital and that kind of stuff. So make sure you got the corrections there, and then we are going to move on. Okay, so I would like you to jot down these 2 acronyms. It's really important that you remember which festival represents what, and you don't get confused between Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, because Eid al-Fitr is remembering the end of fasting, the end of Ramadan. Eid al-Adha is the time at the end of Hajj where Muslims remember the sacrifice of Ibrahim and his willingness to obey God. Okay, they're very different festivals in terms of what they remember, and you will not be told in the exam. If you got a question on Eid al-Fitr, it wouldn't say Eid al-Fitr bracket after Ramadan. They expect you to know this stuff. Okay, so you have to make sure you remember it, and to do that, I like to use acronyms. Now, one of the acronyms I'm really proud of, the other I think is the best I could come up with, and it wasn't very good. So if you've got a better one than this, then please do let me know on Show My Homework. Eid al-Fitr, F-I-T-R. I've used fasting is terminated, rejoice. Okay, so fasting has come to the end. We've got the end of our fasting. We're now going to have a big party. I think that sums up Eid al-Fitr pretty well. Eid al-Adha is not so good. At the Hajj, animals. The less said about that, the better. If you've got a better one for Eid al-Adha, write that instead and let me know what it was on Show My Homework. But either way, try and come up with a way of remembering these festivals in a way that is going to be sticking in your memory from now all the way to the end of the GCSEs and beyond. Okay, once you've done that, you're looking for an extension task. I'd like you to have a think about how these festivals can help build positive communities, and by that I mean outside of the Ummah, okay? Positive communities on our streets between Muslims and non-Muslims alike, okay? How can Muslim festivals be a positive thing for Great Britain? What can they do with neighbours and the poor? Just 2 great examples of how Muslim festivals can build positive communities in Great Britain. Finally, Finally, you're going to be doing this. I've attached on Show My Homework 4 questions, a 1 marker, a 2 marker, a 4 marker, and a 5 marker. It shouldn't take you that long, okay? In exam time, that's 12 minutes worth of writing. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes for this. Try and keep down, to proper exam times if you can. And just a quick hint, question 4 is the 5 marker on where you're asked to refer to scripture in your answer. You do not need to quote the Quran directly. Okay, I've not taught you any quotes about these festivals specifically. I have taught you, however, stories from the Quran that these festivals remember. Okay, and you should refer to the story, for example, of Ibrahim. That's in the Quran. So if you refer to that story, you are still getting a mark for referring to scripture. Okay, you haven't got to quote it, you can refer to the story and still get that mark. Have a go at those questions, send them over to me as well as your work on Id-ul-Adha. And if you are stuck on thinking about how Muslim festivals help the community, then I suggest you take a look at what happened in the days after the Grenfell Tower tragedy. Now, 3 years ago, on Monday the 15th of June, so 3 years ago last Monday, Grenfell Tower burned. A horrific, heinous, tragic event which was wholly preventable had the proper investment been made in the housing community. People died. Many people died. Many people who were very, very young and really shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place. In the days afterwards, Muslims who were celebrating Ramadan at the time got together, and in their iftar meal, their evening meal, the breaking of the fast, and in the Eid that followed, they welcomed those who had been affected by Grenfell, who had lost their homes, lost their loved ones, to share free food with them. We saw a massive outpouring of community spirit, of Muslims in Great Britain making Great Britain a better place. So check out what happened. I've attached a link, but you can also look on another news website if you can't get on that one. Have a look at what happened and see how this festival and other festivals have really benefited local communities. Have a lovely day.